Welcome back to LivAnimated.com. Let's learn something new. We last left off with our character rigging it, skinning it, and testing it in the Unreal Engine to make sure that it exported correctly and that it would be ideal to move forward. That all was a success. What we're going to be working on now is getting the clothes into the character. The character that we're working on has underwear. We are going to rig and skin that underwear to the model. Let's go right into it. Let's open up our last scene that we worked with, that we saved before we built our rig. So we want to look at our character skin 16, and we're going to open this file. The reason why I want to put it on this version of the file is because if you take your FBX, bring the clothes into the FBX that's been imported into the Maya scene, yes, you'll be able to skin the clothes to that rig and then re-export the clothes out. That's really only going to work for you in the engine, meaning that you can layer the clothes on top. It'll take on the same motion as the body rig and it'll work fine. But what we want to do is in the Maya scene itself, we want to make sure the clothes follow it correctly and are part of our main rig file so that we don't just work with a naked character the whole time. We do want to see how the clothes are going to deform. So that's why I'm going back and putting the clothes on at this stage. We already know that our rig export works and that if we export it again, it should work again. It's just that next time we're going to be able to export it with the clothes being a part of the export. So we have our file open. We are going to unhide the clothes. If you go into the outliner, you can go to the outliner by pressing here. And then select the clothes that are hidden, hit H. That is the toggle for unhiding the clothes. As you can see, the clothes are in the right position to start off in its base pose. What we want to do is we want to select the joints and then select this mesh and then add it to a bind skin so that it gets picked up as like a skinnable mesh. So let's shift click on our root, select our root. I just want to select everything because I want the hierarchies to be exactly the same. Once we have that selected, you want to go and select the underwear and then go to the rigging tab. Under the rigging tab, you want to go to skin, bind skin. Now it's going to be bound, but it's not going to be bound perfectly. And what we can do to test this binding of skin is select our thigh joints right here, and we're going to just rotate them. You can see how the mesh gets lost when we rotate on our z-axis. It gets pulled in too far. All right, so we're going to correct that. Same thing with this upper body too, but we're going to do the lower body first. So let's just go ahead and set a key. Make sure you're back. You undid what you just did. Set a key, press S, go about 30 frames out, rotate the legs up about 90 degrees, set another key, and then let's go back and set them back as far as we think we'll go with them. And then set a key. All right, so let's go back to our 0 frame. Now we're going to paint these weights. We cannot paint these weights with the tool because we added these as just a bind skin. We didn't bind it through the ARTv2 system. So let's save our file. Let's save as. We'll do this as the next iteration. So number 17. So we have our mesh selected. So make sure your mesh is selected, and we're going to do skin, paint weights. What we want to do first is we want to make sure that we first got to open up the correct editor. So open up your tool settings and you'll have the paint weight selection right here. We want to make sure that we put everything first to the pelvis and we'll start painting from there. A lot of the vertices right now are going to be sharing the waist between, I think, spine 1, spine 2, pelvis, and then the right and left thigh and the right and left calf, I think, a little bit. So we want to make sure we zero all those things out. The best way to do that is let's hit W, get out of our paint weights. Let's go back to Windows in our general editors and let's open up our component editor. Now what we want to do is right click and go to vertex mode, select a vertice, hold down shift and press the period key a few times, well a lot actually, until everything's selected. Once everything is selected, you want to go over to pelvis, select the first vertex, and then scroll down and then shift select the last vertex and hit 1. This way it'll ensure that everything is to the pelvis. We don't have to worry about anything being to the root or to any other joint that we don't want it to. Now when we select the paint and weight that we want to put on it, we can be assured, unselect, go back to object mode. We can be sure that we're only going to be blending between the pelvis and the other joint that we know is selected and the one that we want to use. So let's go back to our paint weights. We have this selected. Let's go to skin, paint weights. We still have this editor window open, so we can just leave that how it is. So if you look at right now, everything is to the pelvis. Perfect. What we're doing is we're doing painting. We're doing replace. So this all looks fine. Our value for painting is a 0.1, which is fine. We're pretty much doing blending at this point anyway, so I think that's fine. Let's go, and what we want to do is let's start moving the keys up a little bit. All right. Let's actually move the keys up a lot. I think we were at frame 30, so go to frame 30. And you see how there's like a huge gap here. We're going to want to paint on that. Let's hide our joints. It's going to save again. And we are going to want to work with, if we scroll down, thigh. Oh, it looks like it only stopped at the thigh. Interesting. Oh, I think it only grabbed what it needed. All right, so thigh left and thigh right. So let's go to thigh right. And we are going to begin to paint on thigh right. As you can see, it's starting to conform a little bit onto thigh right. This is what we want to do. Let's change this to a 0.3. Too much. Let's change this to a 0.1, 0.15. So it'll be a little bit more subtle for us to work with our brush, but it'll still get us closer to what we want. Do a little bit here. If you hold down shift while you're clicking and painting, it'll blend between the two. We don't want her to have this baggy look in her underwear. So we want to make sure this edge here is a little bit more. So let's do a 0.25. There we go. That looks pretty good. We may want that to be a little bit more here underneath the thigh. I'm just holding down shift and painting the weights right here, just so it gets a nice blend and it's smooth. So see, that was pretty quick. We can leave that like that, right on the edge down there, because you can see if there was another row of segments right here, it would be a little bit more rounder. I'm more for keeping that as clean as possible. Let's look at the front, see what that's looking like. we're going to want this to go back to the pelvis. So if we select our pelvis again, and we want this to go to 1, let's select 1 again for this part right here. All right, now let's go back to 0.25, and we were looking at our right thigh. See, this shouldn't be right thigh at all. This should be pelvis. So let's just put that back to what it was. All right, 0.25. Let's go back to our right thigh. All right, that looks good. This needs to be back to pelvis as well, just because we don't want to have any mistake areas where it's blending all weird, because we'll know why. It's because we didn't go back and fix our work. All right, now let's go back. There we go. That looks better. 0.25. Let's rotate forward. That blends pretty good. Now let's do the other side. So we're going to do left thigh, and we're going to do 0.25. That's not what you want to do. You want to do it like this. You don't want to really blend those in. You want to blend the other part. Again, I'm holding down Shift and doing this part. Get into conform. We need to go back here to our pelvis and blend back on here. Whoa, 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 no. I just undid all that. We do not want that like that. Let's go back to our left thigh. Let's do this as a 0.1. Let's do a shift. That's better. Now let's go to our left thigh, right thigh. Those thighs are... What am I doing? 0.1. Let's do a 0.25, which is what we had it on. I think we are messing up our pelvis. Let's do a 0.1. Let's go back here. We're doing a full-on 1 for pelvis. That's what we're doing. Now let's do a 0.1. Let's go back to our thighs. Go back here to 30. Hold down Shift. We're going to do 0.25. That's what we're doing for this area. Can make this smaller. Hold down B and left click and drag. You can make the paint diameter smaller. Go back to our left thigh. Do the same thing. Holding down Shift just to make sure I get a nice smooth blend. That looks better, but she has like a little crotch thing right here going on. We want to go back to our pelvis. We want to put this back to 1. And we want to bring these back out. Yeah.